Okay, my name's Niles Hailstones. I'm a musician, member of the community that's involved in a lot of things to do with the community, on an everyday level. Um, Father, grandfather, uncle, a lot of things have changed and a lot of things remain the same. And I think this is the irony of the situation. The people have woken up a bit more. We've become more aware. The battle for the saving our community started within the 10 years previous, right? So for years before that, we've been actively involved in trying to save our community from the regeneration of the whole area. And especially in the last 5 years, that had heightened. So there were a lot of battles going on, as you're aware, for different resources and different community spaces within the area, which Grenfell was a part of that regeneration agenda. So as a wider community, we were involved in, trying to challenge some of those developments that were going on that were not beneficial to the community. So that has kind of carried on since that time. It hasn't stopped in terms of Grenfell exposed what was going on in the area on another level. Prior to that, we were dealing with something that was seen as a very local battle. So it was hard to get what was happening to us to a wider level, people to be aware of what was going on. It was Grenfell that opened that up, and actually people started to see what was going on in the richest borough in the country. It's all also part of what was going on previous to this. The land that we're standing on now underneath the motorway is actually something that was given to the community back in the 60s. So like 1971, there was a charity formed, Norfolk Kensington Amenities Trust, which is now known as the Westway Trust. So that was about the building of this motorway that we stand underneath and the destruction it caused in the poorest part of the borough. Yeah? So that's another part of the history that we were already going through of what has been happening to the community. So within that struggle, there was the redevelopment of said land, right? Which was not to the benefit of the community. So as a collective, we came together under the name of Westway 23, and basically the community came together to challenge those things that were going on. That was going on before Grenfell happened, yeah? So within that now, you'll know that there were other members of the community who were involved in that movement, who were very prevalent in what would happen, like Edward, Grenfell Action Group. So when on June the 14th, when it happened, we were all very connected and aware of what was going on politically. And, Grenfell Action Group being the ones who were making us aware of what was going on here and what was going on a wider level in terms of the council's policies, what was going to be happening with our housing and the buildings that were under threat, right? Like the library and the college. And so all of these things had been developing beforehand, and the community had been getting together to challenge what was going on. Like I say, when Grenfell happened, that exposed everything and created a situation where those things had to change. So that is somewhere where we can say that there was change in terms of what the plans originally were to strip all the assets from the community, right? I'd say what hasn't changed is the culture of the local council, central government, the whole institutionally racist practice, the fact that there's still a post-colonial mindset in this area. They have never acknowledged the existence of institutional racism, So that's another thing that we've been doing through the last year, and probably going into 2 years now, is being involved in a review that is happening, that should be completed soon, into institutional racism in the Westway Trust, right? So the culture that has been developed in the local area in terms of how organizations operate, the things that people have to adhere to be a part of that system, is something that the community is going to have to learn about, how that controls how we're able to challenge or how we're able to resist. Yeah, our organizations, One Voice Community Collective and Westway 23, are still unincorporated associations. The reason for that being is that if we need to really challenge something, if we need to shut something down, we can. If we form ourselves into the accepted form that the council would like us to be, or the people who say the local funding bodies would like us to be in that format, then what happens is we end up not being able to resist or challenge the injustices that's going on. So legislation is set up, laws are set up, legislation to prevent us from getting justice. And this is the thing that is just a truism about what is going on, is that the system that has set itself up to protect itself is not going to give us justice. Yeah? That is something we have to create by demanding it, by instigating it, we can't depend on the legal system that oppresses us to give us justice. For us, it means remembering, the effect, the devastating effect that this has had on this community and the lives that were lost, but also remembering in a form that brings about a rebirth. Like was stated from the beginning by our brother Loki, the metaphor of the phoenix rising from the ashes. This is the flame we want to keep alive in terms of how we approach the situation. The energy we approach things like this with is about, remember that energy that was born out of this community, yeah, that when Grenfell happened, yeah, we all know the energy that existed. And sometimes it feels like that has been dissipated. But that is because of the strategies that have been used to divide and rule the community to prevent us from getting justice. That flame is still alive in us. We just need to get back to that point, because we were at a point where it felt to everybody we could change things, and it feels like that slipped out of people's hands. And we've gone back into the same system that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Now we've got to be the light at the end of the tunnel, yeah? And we've got to shine that light bright, yeah? And we're going to have to be creative and innovative, and we're going to have to take risks. No one's got justice or sought freedom or liberation without having to take risks, and the world that we're living in now, right now, yeah, as we're speaking, yeah, we all have a responsibility for the generations that's coming after us to stand up, stand in our power and talk the truth about what's going on and work with our communities. Because if we don't, we'll be explaining a very sad story to them about how we just did what we were told to do, and there's times in history you can look back to where that was people's excuse when they had to explain why they didn't do something about the madness that was going on around them, right? So that's all our responsibilities to deal with now. And we have to get that message out. And spiritually, one of the things that we're doing at the village at the moment, because obviously in the wake of Grenfell, it was more direct response in terms of, on the day, taking over that building and occupying it, yeah, to deal with the community, which started off with the donations and therapies and all the other stuff, and it's transformed more into a place where people can come and do a variety of things now, because we've gained a space for the community that we can determine what happens in that space, right? So, and what we've been doing while the place is locked down is every Sunday, we still have a small drum circle where we still practice our culture and we still remember our ancestors, and we still actually come together, because we're not able to, when something like this happens, it disconnects us, in terms of the, I don't know which word I should use, yeah, but let's say the, let's just call it what it is, yeah, right? You can use it or not use it, right, yeah? But in terms of this scamdemic that's going on right now, right, yeah, one of the objectives is to separate us, is to make us not connect, right? Or one of the effects of the current situation, yeah, is that it disconnects us, right? So therefore we have to find creative and innovative ways that come from the roots of our culture to reconnect. One of them is this, that every Sunday we've been spreading by word of mouth and telling people 9 o'clock on Sunday evenings, take a minute to remember the ancestors. And also take a minute to remember those who've passed that we haven't been able to gather collectively for. Because if we gather our consciousnesses together, yeah, right, which is what used to happen before the technology, before the telephone, before the internet, right? We used to have those numbers. When we had to dial phone like this, everything was stored in our heads, right? So what we're saying is, let's develop that form of telepathy, that, let's grow spiritually, but to the rooted point of where we used to be able to communicate without phones, without social media, right? Because that's what we're going to have to do at times like Grenfell, at times where there's a pandemic and basically the people who are supposed to serve us are once again nowhere to be found. And it's just us here on ground, which is what's happened again, right? So every time something like that goes down, yeah, we're the ones on ground who's left to pick up the pieces. That's the reality. So if that's the reality, then we have to strategize and work together to form those structures that can get us through, the systems and structures that can get us through these kind of situations. Because we know that the government, local government, even certain local charities and organizations work at an arm's length basis, right? That means that when these things happen, we won't see them, right? So going back to the 9 o'clock, the Sunday session, the drums, we call it drum call for the ancestors. We call the ancestors 3 things. 1, we call the ancestors, remember those who came before us, whose shoulders we stand on, yeah? 2, we remember those that have recently passed and making their transition, so that we collectively in our consciousness come together to acknowledge that, yeah? Because we can't do it in the physical. And 3rd, we meditate on the positive things that we collectively need to bring into being for our community. And that the truth about what's going on in the world around us be revealed to everybody, so we can move forward in truth, rights and justice and peace.